people that stay in it seems easy in the moment, but later down the road, you have regrets. You have, let's say you didn't do fitness, you have pains and health problems or finance problems or relationship problems, which is because you stayed in the comfort zone. Or the other side of life, which I find beautiful in itself, is struggle, is the pain. Because as someone as yourself knows, through the pain is comes glory. It's the beautiful part of the creation, right? What you've created. And there's nothing like it. There's nothing like success.
Doing those things in tandem are going to create a better individual today. Today. That's the lowest hanging fruit that you can grab as a human being. Okay? Everybody should be doing that to some extent. Everybody. I've always been one, at least I try to be one that discards. But you can't discard if you're weak. You can't discard if you're malleable. You have to be resilient and you have to be calloused. And the way that you become that way is by your thoughts and your actions, your undeniable stack of proof that you have that showcases you are who you say you are. Then that way, when the enemy's voice comes in, you can just fucking slap it down. It's not a thing because you have proof to back who you are, your competency, and what you created to be.
Hey friends, you're tuned in to the Learn or Be Learned podcast, a show where wisdom meets curiosity in order to discover the human experience. I'm your host, Shiva D, and remember, you either learn from or you're learned from. Now, let's get back to the show.
All right, welcome back everybody to another great episode on Learn or Be Learned. Today's guest is Justin Groth. He is a business owner. He's super into mindset, fitness, and everything about making yourself the next best version of yourself. He's also a podcaster. He has a podcast called Straight from the Chest. Justin, thank you for being on the show. Glad to have you.
Thanks, Shiva. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Before we jump right into all the stuff that you've been doing and mindset and everything, do you mind giving us a little backstory on how you got here?
Yeah, so I'll try to be brief and give you the Cliff's Notes. I am a natural bodybuilder, personal trainer. That's what my business is a private personal training studio that I train clients out of. And I came into that through really just accident. At a young age, as a kid, I had kind of identity issues with my body, or body issues rather, and I always struggle with what I was never happy with the way that I looked. I always wanted to become better. I always wanted to enhance my look. I always wanted to enhance my body, so to speak. And I don't know why. I think at an early age, I saw my dad. He was big and strong. And I was kind of on the scrawnier side when I was young. And I thought to myself, man, that's my biggest hero. I want to be like that. And so I just never really felt, I guess, confident is the best word to describe it, in my skin, man. And until I found bodybuilding. And when I found bodybuilding, it kind of opened up this avenue of characteristics that I didn't know I had lying dormant, which was work ethic, discipline, consistency, and just a relentless nature to be better in the regard of my body, and that ultimately transformed my mind. And so these are kind of the tools that I use nowadays to transform other people's minds as well as their bodies. And I'm paying homage to what lessons I was taught way back in the day, and I feel like it's my obligation to continue this quest and continue better people through the avenue of fitness.
So you started in bodybuilding and working on yourself first, and then you saw this, let's say, open pocket for a business to help others do the same thing. Is that what the business was? Is mindset / fitness coaching?
Yeah. Well, the mindset came secondly. The first thing was the fitness and transforming people's bodies and getting them to short and or long-term goals that they had with their bodies. And then that kind of that revealed the mindset aspect, because for anybody who's been involved with any kind of fitness regimen, it's not something that you just have the motivation to do every day. You have to stick to a certain disciplinary structure, and you have to eat a certain way, adhere to a certain diet model if you want to achieve the best results and the optimal results that you're after. And that takes a lot of you absolving yourself from things that might be fun or might be momentary bliss or whatever, and that begins the hardening, callousing part of the mindset that you put yourself in and play a part with. Because if you don't have that, you just give into everything and anything, then you're not going to really get far with your goals. That is, unless you're just genetically gifted right out the gate, and most people
Right.
are not. So
Right.
we have to work for it.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I've talked to quite a few fitness coaches and even on the show, and it almost always boils back to it starts with fitness and then you realize it's also mindset and how
Uh-huh.
much your mindset actually hinders you from physically hitting that next level. And almost kind of what you said in the beginning with your father, even when you see the results in somebody, it speaks for itself, which I think is why we admire people that are physically fit or healthy, because you can't buy that. You can't cheat your way to it usually, right? I mean, now I guess there is certain plastic procedures you could kind of do, but in general, it's hard work can only get you there, which is why I think we admire somebody that's healthy.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular you see mindset wise that's like a consistent, a lot of people keep thinking this or have this block?
Yeah, it's limitations with everybody, and it's based on really the way that they were raised, how their coaches raised them, teachers raised them, their parents raised them, maybe siblings. It's not really these people's faults, because you don't really have the you don't really have the tools to or the understanding to circumvent these situations when you're younger. And that, for example, if you have a teacher that's telling you, well, it's good enough if you just do the homework and you just get a passing grade. If that's kind of what's been indoctrinated in you to think, well, that's kind of been the indoctrination that you've had, well, then you might apply that same moral compass to life, or principle to life. It's where you end up just doing what you need to do to get by, just get a passing grade. And alternatively, if you have somebody who, like a coach, or let's say you have a basketball coach that won't accept anything less than a let's say a 5-second 40-meter, or whatever, fast time is for 40-meter, or a 7-second 4, whatever it is, and it takes you months to get there, but you have that focus of, I need to beat this time, I need to get it within this time, because nothing else is acceptable, and they hold you to a different metric and a different standard. Well, then that becomes your new norm. That becomes your new threshold. So that's levels above the threshold that somebody has that just is within the mindset of getting by. It's just, so what I'm saying is these are kind of pre-indoctrinated limitations that we have on us, given to us by our family, our siblings, our coaches, our teachers, that really kind of steer us into the belief or the mindset that we go into our adult lives with. Now, whether or not we choose to keep facilitating on that limited belief system is up to you. You can choose to be different, or you can choose to accept the norm, which you've been accepting for years prior. And it's this new belief system that you have to impart, which is one of, look, I know that I'm capable of more. I know there's more waiting for me. I know that there's more for me to accomplish. I know I'm capable of accomplishing these things. Fill in the blank with whatever you want in life. If you want to buy that big ass house outright in cash, if you want to go to the Lamborghini dealership and buy a Lamborghini outright in cash, not finance or lease it. Whatever it is, whatever you want in life, I'm not saying you can just get it tomorrow, but it's going to take you first establishing a belief system that is non-wavering, non-negotiable, for you to meet that metric. And one day you'll be able to accrue all the resources and top of the mental faculties to attain that specific thing. But it's not going to come if you don't first establish a belief system, and then secondly, work into the belief system and cement and substantiate that belief system that you have through the means of action. So in real life, playing into what talent you have, what God's given you, and being able to solidify your talents through the means of action. That way you develop competency in what you're giving the world and what service you're providing or who you are as a person. And then that cements in confidence. And then you keep replaying that theme. And then one day you do this for a long period of time. You think and you act, and you end up compounding. The materialization of it is of compounding nature. Then you end up achieving higher status, upper class level, to almost like championship mindset. But you must continuously go through the obstacles and the hurdles and keep jumping them every single day. And that's something that most people aren't willing to do. And that's the reason why they're average. That's the reason why they don't have what they want. But it first has to come by a belief system that's unwavering.
Mm-hmm. That's so key to what you just said, is unwavering belief systems, right? So let's say somebody's hooked on what you just said. They're like, okay, Justin, I'm with you. I want an unwavering belief system. Now, what is the steps you recommend for somebody?
Show me, dude. Because I don't believe shit that anyone says. You show me that you have what it takes, not just by what you say, but you must now solidify your thoughts through the means of action. So show me. You said it, great. Anybody could say anything. Now you show me. When they ask me the same thing you're asking me, I cut them off just like I cut you off. And I say, you show me. You show me. Because most people fall flat on their fucking face when I say show me. And then show me over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for 10 more fucking years. You're not equipped to do that. And that's the reason why you're not successful. That's the reason why I'm rare and you're not. You're average. More people are like you. Most people are not like me. And that's why most people won't get what I get. But that morsel of information that you feed them might be the igniting factor that they need to actually change your life. Because everybody else is telling them, hey man, it's okay. Just, do your best and blah, blah, blah. Fuck that. There must be a standard that you meet every day. You must not fall below that standard unless you're fucking sick and you're out for the count. You must meet that standard and or surpass that standard every single day. Or else you don't have a fighting fucking chance in this world, because everybody out there is out there for fucking blood. And they don't care what you feel like. They don't care that you don't want to do it that day. They don't care that you're not willing to take the pain, because they are. And the one that can take the most amount of pain will win.
I mean, if you even look at people like David Goggins with their mindset of steel, right? He literally pushed himself physically to the limits, to the point where he has this unwavering mental strength where nothing gets past him. And I think that's really the essence of what you're saying is belief systems and follow through, because words are just words unless you're showing it, right? Anybody can talk, but not everybody has the results.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so powerful, man. I love that. I love it. And, you talked about people being average and so many people just being average. I see that more and more today. I mean, people around you and everything. I just don't. Is it fear? I know you said belief systems, but there's got to be some hindrance as to why these people are accepting their belief systems and not wanting to push forward. Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of humiliation? Have you seen some reasons as to why?
Of course it is. It's all of that. But you have to overcome that by way of just doing. And without the fear, without thought of the fear being the thing to overtake you. We understand that fear is a part of the equation, and we understand that failure is a part of the equation, but we also understand that perseverance and winning is a part of the equation too. And most people aren't willing to look at that side more than they're willing to look at the fear and failure side. And therefore, they succumb to the fear and the failure instead of the winning and persevering.
So you're saying, I mean, I've even seen this myself, right? When I first started the podcast, there was so much, subtle talks, resistance around me, but I thought, okay, you know what? The only way to get better is you're going to look bad at the beginning. I mean, that's just the natural course of action in anything, weightlifting, starting something. I mean, you have a podcast that has like 250 episodes. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about when you started. You got that. It's almost like you just got to jump. You just close your eyes and just that's it. Like I press publish, you just jump and you don't look back.
Yeah, man. I mean, for one, the podcast is over 500 episodes as of today, and
Really?
that's something that, yeah, that's something that you're exactly right. You have to just start, and you have to just understand that people are going to have their judgments no matter what, but that you have to block those out. Like, for example, for me, I don't look at analytics. I don't look at
Mm-hmm.
analytics. I don't look at graphs, fucking where I'm going on the charts. I don't give a shit. All I
Mm-hmm.
care about is the message, and I care about educating people. And I know that is going to win. If I do that and I adhere to it with consistency, I know I'll win. It's just a matter of time. I just got to wait the clock out. So I keep putting out episodes. I keep giving people these words of encouragement, this message, but it's not just words. These are things that I've experienced. These are feelings and emotions that I've lived. And so that's why I put this out and I record on the mic, because I know people are out there just like me, and they're in worse positions than I'm in. So I want to give that word to them because I want them to understand what's possible. I mean, it's the same reason why I never did drugs as a bodybuilder, and I did natural bodybuilding, which means no steroids. I competed at high levels because I wanted to do and see what my body could do naturally, even amidst people that were enhanced. I didn't give a shit because I don't levy myself on the actions or means of other people. What you do with your body is your is up is your with whatever you want to do. I don't preface anything that I do off of anybody else. I do it because I want to do it. And I'm one, I like everybody else, man. I am sometimes, impressed, and I might be impressionable, but at the same time, I got to get real with myself and realize, hey, man, that doesn't fit with your character. It doesn't align with who you are. It doesn't align with your identity. Don't do that. Don't be that. Be yourself, because God created you super fucking unique, and everybody he did the same thing with. So whether or not you believe in God or not, understand that you were born with a specific unique gene sequence. And that gene sequence is there for you to be able to make your mark on this world. And if you don't believe that, well, then no one can fucking help you. And neither can I. And that's why when I have people like that, I simply tell them, if you don't believe that this is who you are, if you don't believe that you have some unique gifts, that even the homeless person that's making their own shelter on the side of the freeway has unique gifts in him, then there's no saving you. And by the way, I'm not here to save you. I'm here to encourage you. I'm here to ignite you. I'm a fucking igniter. And I ignite the flame that God already gave you. You just, for some reason, have been fucking putting it out all these years for no reason. That's on you. But you have the ability to overturn that. You have the ability to ameliorate your situation. It's whether or not you think you're worth it. And every one of us as human beings is worth it.
Yeah, I mean every person is absolutely unique, and to the point where you almost start to realize, and I'm sure in your line of work you realize too, you can only help people that want to be helped. I mean, I've seen time and time again people trying to help, bending their back to help people, giving them everything, which they just don't take because if you're not in the reciprocating mood, if you're not looking for help, if you're not ready to change or ready to look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Man, I did gain some weight," or "Man, I am doing bad financial habits or doing drugs or drinking too much." If you can't look at yourself and see those flaws for what they are, then you're not ready to get help because you're not looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
And I'm
call that
sure,
self-auditing.
yeah, yeah. Self auditing, self awareness, so important in this kind of work.
Very.
Yeah. Is there a few? I mean, there must be, but what are some values that you follow from your journey now that you are these non-negotiables that you live by?
Well, obviously, behaviors and habits and structure and discipline is something that I orient my life around, right? That's going to dictate my path in life. That's going to dictate where I go. That's going to dictate what I end up becoming and the outcome that I'm after. But above all that, it's keeping my streak going, keeping my streak. I've got this streak that no one else can say they have. I've never drank. I've never smoked. I'm not a criminal. I don't have a fucking history or a criminal record. I'm going to keep that streak going because I put value on that streak. That's valuable to me. What also is valuable to me is attaining the best iteration of who I am, not for me, just me, but for my family, so I can retire my parents, so I can live in financial freedom, so I can give back to the fucking world what God gave me. That's important to me. That's imperative. And if it's not imperative to you, and you don't have this urgency to create that, well, then you're forever going to stay average. And God never made anybody to be average.
I love this quote. Life is hard for one of two reasons. You're either trying to get out of your comfort zone or you're staying in it. And that's exactly what you're talking about, because the people that stay in it seems easy at the moment, but later down the road, you have regrets. You have, let's say you didn't do fitness, you have pains and health problems or finance problems or relationship problems, which is because you stayed in the comfort zone. Or the other side of life, which I find beautiful in itself, is struggle, is the pain. Because as someone as yourself knows, through the pain is comes glory. It's the beautiful part of the creation, right? What you've created, and there's nothing like it.
Absolutely. And there's nothing like imposed pain too, when it's self-imposed. Now, many people that are listening, they're probably thinking, well, what are you talking about? Like, you mean like hurting yourself on purpose? And yes and no, right? The first way you can hurt yourself on purpose that's going to better you is through the means of physical training, right? Doing something that you're physically resisting, it's getting you stronger, that's making you more calloused and refined as an individual, not only just in the physical representation, but the internal representation. And so the lowest hanging fruit that anybody could grab here, right, is adopting some type of physical fitness regimen and sticking to it every single day in the week. And that is what I promote for everybody, man. I mean, like, you want to start to get better? Okay, great. Stop eating like an asshole, get on a structured diet model, something that you can adhere to and eat the foods that you like that are going to satiate you, that are also going to keep you adhered to. Like, don't just adopt some diet model you can do for 2 or 3 weeks, like chicken, rice, and broccoli. No one can adhere to that except unless you're a competitor. And most people don't have a competitive mindset, like to get on stage and be a bodybuilder, right? So obviously adopt a diet model that you can adhere to that's going to get you lean and keep you fed nutritively and obviously calorically, but without gaining too much body fat, obviously. And then secondly, adopt some type of physical fitness regimen that you stick to day in and day out. That looks different for everybody. Some people, they can just go to the gym and do a bro split where they do legs, back, chest, shoulders, and arms. And then that's good for them, right? Some people hate working at the gym. Maybe for those people, they like kayaking and rock climbing better. That's still resistance training, okay? They're still building their body up to be stronger and more calloused. Doing those things in tandem are going to create a better individual today. That's the lowest hanging fruit that you can grab as a human being. Okay? Everybody should be doing that to some extent. Everybody. Unless you're a quadriplegic, you have no arms and no legs, you should be doing that shit. And you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't. And you cannot tell me with a straight face you love and respect yourself if you don't do those two things.
I've keep saying on this show actually a few different times that I think one of the most selfish things you could do is not take care of yourself, specifically physically, like health wise. Because what ends up happening is somebody else that loves you has to pay that tax and takes care of you because you didn't take care of yourself. And that kind of pain is like no other, because that's not on the other person, that was on you the whole time, right? It's
That's a good
just an
point.
yeah, I mean, it's honestly, people don't think about it, but it's incredibly selfish to not take care of yourself.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I think it's a quite like you said, a non-negotiable. Fitness, taking care of yourself, which I think starts a domino effect of stronger mindsets and other things. You start seeing, hey, my discipline's growing. I'm working out every day. Let's see if I can cut back some TV, or let's see if I can read this book now. And it starts this domino effect. And next thing you know, what do they say? In 1 month, you start to see the difference. In 3 months, the people close to you start to see the difference. In like 6 months, strangers start to see the difference, and then in a year plus, the world starts to see the difference. I think that compound, you just see that growth, and there's nothing like it, truly.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah, that's how it was. I spent 6 months in India, and I wanted nothing but to better myself in every regard. Um, and it was the most satisfying 6 months ever when I got towards the end of it, just seeing the kind of man I had become, and overcome, especially mentally. It was awesome.
Nice. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
More people have to do that. Put themselves in circumstances that they don't understand the outcome of
Hmm.
to really see what they're made of.
Right, right. Because you almost don't know what it looks like on the other side unless you've done it before. But I want to jump into a little bit more about your business side, because you said, I'm guessing that was one of the dominoes from, you started weightlifting, you got that confidence back, you no longer have this image of yourself that you've shredded off. Now I'm guessing that confidence came to where you're like, hey, I can help others do this. Um, did you have the exact same thing go with the business? You had doubts and you just had to jump, or how was that story like?
Of course, man. I mean, the devil runs the world. And so, of course, his voice was infiltrating my headspace. But it wasn't enough for me to tap out. It wasn't enough for me to not do it still. And that is just, everybody has to understand that the devil's voice is going to be a prerequisite if they want to do anything that's going to be measurable or meaningful in their life. They're going to have to contend with the devil's voice. That's just something that is going to be a constant. Okay. What people have to understand is that when they do it anyway, they realize that the devil's voice isn't actually that powerful. It's just words. They don't carry much weight. But sometimes the words enough that are whispered to you in your headspace are enough to derail you or cause the dysfunctional thought process over what you know is going to be good for you and good for others if you do. It's just a matter of overcoming the thoughts or not listening to them entirely.
I love that. I'd love to dive a little deeper, because just last week I had a conversation with a friend, and this was, after I spent 6 months working on myself, and I bettered myself. A certain individual, a new friend had come into my life that didn't fit my value systems, didn't align, ended there. But I kept asking my friend that I was speaking to, I was saying, I don't understand as to why I attracted that type of individual in my life when I was bettering myself. And this is when my friend says, the the devil doesn't bother anybody that's doing exactly what he wants, right? Like if you're the one that's not drinking, you're not smoking, you're working out, you're trying to build a business or a family or whatever your goals are, it, the devil items in life are only bombarding you if you're trying to better yourself. You see those temptations of life.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. So you were talking about that a little bit just now with the whole, um, like devils and temptations. You know, it's so common today. I mean, I think too many people can relate to that, right? Something goes wrong in your life, immediately people think of numbing the pain. Essentially, is really what it is, and then that's where the temptation starts speaking, and the voice gets louder and louder the more you let it, and then eventually, once you are all slipped in, the voice disappears because you're so sucked in, you don't even want to look at yourself anymore. And I think
Mhm.
that's when the devil is good and he's done his work and he's out.
Well, that's where mental strength plays a role, right? A pivotal role. Because if you're too easily drowned out by the negative thoughts that are coming and infiltrating your headspace, you don't have enough strength to pull yourself out of the ditch, so to speak. I mean, well, then you're going to stay in the ditch, right? And you're never gonna create anything. You're never gonna amount to anything. And that's exactly where the devil wants you. He wants you not amounting to shit. He wants you maybe thinking that you might have a fighting chance, but ultimately you're not worth it. You don't have what it takes. This isn't for you. This is not your lot in life. Just accept being mediocre. And he wants you to think that way because then he knows that he has you in a sort of an imprisoned space that allows you to only have a 4 foot by 4 foot, square space area to maneuver in. And that's not a lot. You can't impact a lot of people in a 4 by 4 area. You can't share your experiences with a lot of people. You don't have a lot of reach. But the truth is that we have a lot of reach, especially nowadays with the way that social media is working and the way that the internet works. I mean, you have so much potential to be so much more. You have so much more of a reach to impact so many more people, but it's more of a reason for the enemy to get even louder. But the more loud he gets, the more futile he becomes. Because you realize, especially when you play this into real life, that it's just all words. And it's all your ability to either discard or receive. I've always been one, at least I try to be one that discards, but you can't discard if you're weak. You can't discard if you're malleable. You have to be resilient and you have to be calloused. And the way that you become that way is by your thoughts and your actions, your undeniable stack of proof that you have that showcases you are who you say you are. Then that way, when the enemy's voice comes in, you can just fucking slap it down. It's not a thing because you have proof to back who you are, your competency, and what you created to be. On top of the fact that you tell yourself every day, I'm the best at what I do. I'm one of the best, if not the best at what I do. It's just not my time yet, but my time's coming. I'm going to be noticed. I'm going to be able to be on the grand stage one day. People will know my name everywhere. It's just a matter of time. I have to wait this clock out. But if you can't tell yourself that every day, if you can't live by that credo every single day, if you have anything that's different coming in the way of that said expression, you don't have a fighting chance. But God never said that you were less than. God never said that he created something that was mediocre or average at best. It's your interpretation of you that thinks that. It's your limiting belief system that thinks that. It's your limiting belief system that you operate like that. And therefore, everything around you is going to attract that mediocre average mindset. The people that are attracted to you, the opportunities that are attracted to you are all going to be mediocre in nature. Because that's how you view yourself. So everybody else around you is going to view you that way. And people will oftentimes get really misconstrued with the element of, oh, I don't want to be arrogant. I don't want to be cocky. It's not you being that. You have an undying belief system about who you are and what God inculcated within you. And it's your job and obligation to bring that to its full fruition. People that see it as or interpret it as cocky or arrogant, trust me, they want what you have. They just don't have the ability to have it, and they don't have the ability to create it, and therefore they cast stones on it because it's easier to cast stones at something that people cannot fully fathom or understand. It's easy to just throw a stone at it and call it a fucking term rather than understanding it from a different perspective and we're applying it to their lives.
Too many people want to drag you back down to their level because sometimes when you start to level up, you're a mirror. You start to show up as a mirror
All the
reflection,
time.
and
All the
people see
time.
that in them. Yeah, yeah. And they see you leveling up. They don't like that because you start to look like a mirror. So they see the difference, and they don't want to look at people like that. Don't want to look in the mirror. That's why they don't look at themselves. So they don't want to look at you, and then they try to drag you down back to their level. Uh, I love watching the Bedros Keuilian podcast. He always talks about these crabs in a bucket, where the crabs try to drag. When there's like a fisherman getting crabs and he puts them in a bucket, when a crab tries to leave, all the other crabs drag him back in out of like fear that something's outside the bucket. But what's outside the bucket is the world. It's freedom. It's life. But so many people don't want to see you do that because then they have to take a hard look at themselves, and that's hard. That's
Well,
hard.
the best thing you do in that situation is two things. One, you leave those people behind. And then two, you continue to lead by example to the people because you know that they're still watching you from afar. Those people that you were once intertwined with or may have been a part of their circle, even though you leave them, they're still watching you from afar. So you continue to lead by example to show them that this is what you could be. You don't have to be in that position. I've done it, and I'm no special specimen. You can do it too. But it's going to take you getting out of that fucking quagmire that you're in right now currently, which just takes a lot out of people. And oftentimes they're not willing to accept the quest.
So true. Like you said, leaving people behind is so important and often can be really difficult because you know you start to see that discrepancy of who you're surrounded with. But I like to say, if you want the world, the universe, God, whoever to input something new in your life, you have to first create that open space, that pocket for something new to happen, right? So if you're always centered around a certain group of people, you're not going to find better friends still hanging out with the other group, right? You got to let go to let something new in. And that's something I learned that I think is really truthful.
Yeah, and oftentimes it means that person being with themselves and themselves only for a very long time. And a lot of people, because we are our biology wants to connect. We want to have people in a community. We yearn for that as human beings. That's just a natural way of our biology and neurology. But at the same time, realizing that if we're on this different path that's set apart and we understand we're set apart and we know we can't reach that destination with the people or the baggage that we have right now, knowing that when we release ourselves from that baggage, that we might find ourselves very alone, and understanding that that's the reality of this equation, quite possibly, and we have to be okay with being alone for quite some time. But the reward is one of which is unmatched. If you juxtapose it to living with the same group of friends that are not like-minded and that are only keeping you weighed down in life. At that point, to me, it's not even up for question. I leave. And in fact, if anything, I look at that type of environment or group as lost. You're lost. You haven't grown up. You're lost, and you're not your full potential. And if we're talking about men here, you're not a man. It's a man's duty to find his rite of passage in life. And that means he must embark on the world, likely alone, to find his unit, to find his tribe, and rather to cultivate his tribe and understand everything that he needs to be and everything that he needs to create to step into his manhood. So that's very important for men to understand.
Yeah, and I think part of that journey, what shapes you into becoming a man, is coming out of the other side scathed, right? You have the cuts, the burns, the bruises to show, right, metaphorically at least, that you went through the trenches, that you went through difficult shit to overcome. And honestly, that lonely, that solitude period is so important and so difficult, especially today with social medias and smartphones and TVs. You got things to bombard you all the time. It's like that self-inflicted pain you were talking about. That it's it's very difficult to isolate yourself and accept it, and then just sit down with your own thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it's difficult till the fucking cats come home, dude. Like, I don't care. I don't care what kind of terminology you want to put around it. The fact of the matter is, you just have to fucking do it. Stop talking about it and just do it. And if you keep talking about it, it's just gonna build this thing up into more of a glamorous thing than it deserves. You're putting more weight behind it. You're pedestalizing it. Fuck that. You need to put it in the trash where it belongs. Put it in the
That's
trash.
fair.
And you need
Yeah,
to put yourself above the trash, which means you work and operate differently now. And you don't talk about your shit. You just do things that are bettering yourself, and you keep doing them with your head fucking down, leading by example. That's the way that you change people. That's the way that you change the world. One person by one person, but first you must lead by example.
yeah, so true. Actions speak louder than words, and saying something's hard is in a way pedestalizing it as well. You almost accept it, right? I love the book Atomic Habits, and he talks about identities, and he says there's two types of, like, two examples of two people trying to quit smoking, and one person keeps saying, like, oh, I'm not trying to smoke anymore, and the other person says, I'm not a smoker. And the power between those two is, one, it's when somebody says, I'll try something. If you say, hey, do this fitness regimen, and they go, I'll try it. And then I always tell my friends, when somebody says try, say, I don't like that word, because it almost feels like a scapegoat, like you got an out, right? You either do it or you don't. There's no try. You're either going to do it or you're not going to do it, right? So it's like that. When somebody, like the example with the smokers, it's like, oh, I'm trying to quit. I'm not smoke. I'm trying not to smoke anymore. Versus the other person goes, I'm not a smoker. That's just not me.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just the dichotomy there is very powerful. You can see it.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good book too. I read that book.
hmm I love that book. And from what you're saying with identities and stuff, I can tell that you've kind of had an idea of that book as well.
Yeah. Yeah. What is and what will be are two different things. And when somebody says, I am this, and they put a label on themselves, a title on themselves, it's what more people need. They need to put a title on themselves so they hold themselves to a certain standard. Otherwise, it's like, well, I'm not putting any expectations on myself. If I do it, I great. If I don't, well, whatever. That's not
uh-huh.
the way that I live, man. That's very wavering in life, and that's very wayward. And that is no way. That's one, nothing to look up to or admire if you're somebody else looking unto you. And then two, it's not how you want to be remembered. And then three, you can't respect yourself if you always quit and shit, and you don't put an expectation on yourself to deliver something in any regard. You just, who are you at the end of the day? Like that saying. I mean, the saying, I'm what does Scarface say? I'm my word is my bond, my word is I'm whatever he says. Like that shit. I don't know what Scarface says. Something about balls. Something about like my word is like, I don't know, fuck it. I can't remember. But the point is that you stand behind what you say you're gonna do. And if you put a title on who you are, more often than not, you live up to that title because it's something that you want to live up to. You don't want to let yourself down. Who wants to let themselves down? Nobody. Nobody wants to let themselves down on what they say they're going to do. And if they do, or they are that person, they're not going to go anywhere in life because everything they do is likely half-ass. It's done with low energy, low effort, not a disciplinary not a disciplinary sense in mind, and they just kind of leave things to leave it up to whatever happens. I don't operate that way, but that's the reason why I'm on a different trajectory than everybody else is on, or most people at least. And I don't accept certain things in my life. I don't tolerate certain things in my life. I mean, even when it comes down to my woman, there are certain things that she must abide by. Like, I'm not going to accept anything that she wants to do. If it means her putting her in harm's way, if it means her being promulgated in a way that doesn't fit who I am and what I stand for as a man, she doesn't do it. There are certain boundaries that I have because there are certain standards that she must live up to because I live up to certain standards as well. And that's all about being a better human being and living up to the caliber of human being that God created me to be. At least I believe that God created me to be a higher caliber individual. And that's what I'm going to continuously keep living up to till the day that I die. I can't see myself going in a different path.
Absolutely. I listened to this entrepreneur named Patrick David, and in one podcast he was saying back when he was in his 20s, he was like, one day he was just like, today, from now on, starting today, if I say something, I'm going to do it. And I want people to recognize me as that person. So then that's like, like you said, put his head down, actions only. And he eventually became the guy that if Patrick says he's going to do it, he's going to do it. And, there's no, it's unwavering. And I think a lot more people need to think, you know, almost self-reflection from a third person point of view. It's like, how do people view me? Which obviously to some extent doesn't matter as much as you view yourself, but it's almost an easier exercise to look at yourself as somebody else and kind of work that way, if that makes sense. It's like,
Sure.
okay, if I was looking at, Shiva from this person's point of view, does he follow through with what he's saying? Is he fit? Is he working out? Or is he, you know, half-assing stuff? And I think that can kind of help people too to just start opening up more and looking at themselves.
Well, it holds you accountable, holds you responsible. When you know that other people are looking at you, it holds you more accountable and responsible over the tasks that you need to meet every day, over the man that you're trying to create, right? So it is actually a helpful exercise to embark on every day, holding yourself accountable because of what people around you might see or hold you to. Even though it doesn't matter what people are saying or thinking, if you play that exercise out in its full entirety, it's beneficial to you in the creation of you and the standard that you hold on yourself. And then you end up setting a standard that's well above what anybody else would put on you because you don't want to fall below and make other people think you're not that man that you said you were, or you're not that man that you claim to be, etc. You keep living on to a new standard every single day. And now, before you know it, you're fucking eons above what anybody else's standard would be placed on you. And that's where you want to be. Because that's how you continuously show and lead people by example. But you should not have a threshold. You should keep setting new parameters until where your threshold, your barrier to entry is somebody's threshold that they can never imagine them going beyond. That's your barrier to entry. That's you getting up in the morning and putting your fucking britches on.
Absolutely. I think this episode has been super inspirational, and I often tell people, motivation, it's such a caveat thing, but like motivation, in my opinion, is only something that can come from within. But like you can inspire people, but I think like we said, people that want to be helped are the ones that get helped, right? And that's the same thing. Motivation is motivation has to come from within your belief sets, your values, why you're doing what you're doing, your purpose. But people can inspire you, which I think today too many people are looking for. It's like somebody motivate me, right? Somebody give me that belief system. Somebody give me the value so I can go out and have the fire, the passion to go do it. But if you start looking at it this way, people can inspire you. If you're starting to feel a little, that dip, listen to Justin, listen to people that can hype you up. But motivation, you got like we said from the beginning of this episode, you got to create that. You got to sit down, think about what they are, and then just do them, because you could talk about it all day. You'll get dopamine from it. You'll feel like you got it right. You say, "Oh, these are my values," and it starts to feel good the more you talk about it. But I think you shouldn't. I think you should just do like you're saying.
Yeah, for people that are looking for that, for people that are looking for the motivational aspect, I don't have time for them. Those people are weak individuals. Those people don't deserve my time, period. They don't deserve anybody's time. I'm not an inspiration. I'm not a motivation. I'm a fucking igniter. I ignite the flames that are already fucking in you. It's your job to continuously pursue this obligatory fucking quest that you have as an individual, as a human being, that God gave you the talent within to be able to create the person that's going to help so many other people on so many other different platforms. I'm just the fucking ignition. That's all I'm just the igniter that's igniting the flame that's already in you. But if you are looking for that motivation and bullshit, you're wasting my time. And I'll tell you to fuck off. And I'll tell you to suffer and die if that's what you look for, because that's not the shit that gets things done. Motivation at times is often dark. It's the darkness in the room that causes you to want to move and act differently. When you get to a position of lack and a position of fucking patheticism, when you get to that level, you realize that the only way is up. That's your motivation. If you want to call motivation anything, but that shit's dark. Your demons are motivation enough. And demons are dark. That's the only way that you actually make yourself or resurrect yourself in anything, is by you identifying the demons, identifying that you're in shit position right now, and that you're created for more, and that you're worth more, that you have more to give, period. This is a non-negotiable that you act on every single fucking day. And if you don't, and you don't believe in that, you want to believe in some other foo-foo fairy tale shit, then you're not for me, and you can fuck off, and you can suffer and die, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Real quick. Nobody wants to deal with people like that, because those people bring that person down. I'm still a human being at the end of the day, and I still have my own pursuit to fucking navigate. I'm not fucking with people that don't have the understanding that this is going to take a lot of energy out of them, that there's no quick magic way about this to circumvent the situation. They must apply the same disciplines, the same constructs that I'm applying. And if they don't, suffer and die. I don't care. You're wasting my fucking time.
Literally, my last episode, I did like like assessing your social structures, the people around you, and one of my points was there's two types of people: people you interact with that you get they're energy givers and takers, right? And the people that are draining you, the energy takers, those are the people you got to cut out, because those are the people, like we talked about earlier, trying to drag you to their level because they see that energy, they see you trying to you see you breaking heights, right, breaking ceilings, and trying to go next, and they start to look up and they're like, nope, like, not like, I'm not doing that, so I'm going to bring you to my level instead of looking at that as inspiration to go with you, which is an energy giver, right? The energy giver is like, I like what you're doing. Let's go together. Let's run that. If you're going in at 5 a.m. going for that run, call me. I'm in too. And then there's other people that are like, why are you going for a run, man? Let's just go get breakfast at 7, and let's go do this instead, and stuff like that, right? So you got to really assess the people in your life.
Yeah, I mean, some people need that helping hand to kind of coax them into going in the direction that they know that their better half knows that they need to go. But I would say instead of jumping in to that 5 a.m. run, set your own time, set your own precedence with whatever activity it is, and do it on your own accord. Don't wait for somebody to meet up with you like buddy, fucking, I need to fucking have I need to have a team. I need to have this team, this cohesive unit so I can get the job done. Like, fuck that. That's pussy weak shit. You go to the gym at whatever time you set, and you do the workout on your own. You go on that run, set the time, you do it on your own. You fucking do these things on your own. You don't do a buddy system. Fuck that buddy system shit. It doesn't work because inevitably you're relying on someone to meet up with you. And that's just another way that you're not holding yourself accountable and to the highest expectation. The way you do it is you don't have a buddy. You burn your boat. You set out with this certain agenda on your own accord. You set the time, you set the activity, and you meet it. And if you don't meet it, guess who you let down? You. You let yourself down, and you have you to thank for that shit. And you sitting with yourself because you disappointed in yourself is a far bigger burden than you just letting your buddy down. No buddy systems, dude. No buddy systems ever. You do this shit on your own. You set the metric and the standard on your own, and you meet it or surpass it every day. Everything else is meaningless. And it's not going to equate to the best, strongest, most callous version that you have that's in you right now. You don't meet that demand, or you don't get to that level by buddy systems. You do this shit alone, and you see what you're made of alone.
Yeah, honestly, when you started saying that, I started thinking about experiences of people I've noticed. You're so right, because I've seen people say, "Hey, let me join you at the gym," and as long as I was going, they were going too. If our schedules no longer aligned, I'm like, "Hey, man, what happened?" And they're like, I just this and that," and they'll start making excuses, and next thing you know, they're back to who they were at base level because they weren't actually ever accountable with themselves. They were accountable to you, and they
Yes.
never placed it on themselves.
That's a very important distinction to make, Shiva. Very important distinction, man. That's right on. Yeah, they were accountable to you, not themselves.
It's actually really eye-opening. Do it alone. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, Justin, I always ask the guests at the end of the episode, since this show's called Learn or Be Learned, what is one life lesson that you want the audience to learn from you, or you learn from somebody that you would like to share?
I got life lessons that make me learn new shit every single day. I mean, the biggest lesson is that I could give anybody, or the biggest piece of information is, don't stop. You just can't stop. If you believe yourself to be something, and you believe that you're equipped to handle something that's of magnitude in the future, or that you're going to be at a certain level in life, and whatever, you just can't stop. And the only way that if anybody's going to call you anything, they can't call you a quitter. You just got to make sure that no one can call you a fucking quitter, or no one can call you a flake, or no one can call you something that is analogous to you letting out on your word. You keep doing everything every single day that you can, the best you can every day, by little things like obviously working out, eating right, and consistently bettering your mind. You do these things, and you keep disciplines around these elements, and you will become better. You will attract better opportunities, better people, higher caliber opportunities than people. But you just can't stop. Everybody wants to understand it to be something different or magical, or there's some illuminating, phrase that can be said, or some awesome, nice platitude to live by. No, it's fucking, you can't stop. That's the realest advice that anybody could give anybody. You just can't stop. If you stop, then everything else fucking stops. And everything else you did up until this point was done in vain and was meaningless. And you never got to see what you could be. And that's the most devastating part You never got to see what you could have been. So if you die and there's a heaven and God is in that heaven and says, look back on your life, Shiva. You could have done, why didn't who were you in life? And he shows you everything that you were. But he then shows you this other reel of everything that is not who you were. And then you see Shiva, you go, who's that? This is you. This is what you could have done. This is who you could have been. If you just stayed with it for another 2 months or 2 years or fucking 15 years, you could have been this. This is what could have been your life. But now it's too fucking late. You can't go back down to earth and relive the shit that you could have lived. That is devastating. And that should be anybody's ultimate fear that they never want to contend with. What they could have been. It's all living on the simple element of, are you going to stop or are you going to keep going? That's the question. And you ask yourself that every single day. Unless you're on your deathbed, you better keep going.
So powerful. I say this all the time on the show. One of my biggest fears is regret, is getting to the finish line and having so much regret. That just, it literally fuels me to want to do more, because that that imagery you just gave of looking at yourself like, this is what I could have been, this is what I could have had, you know, that just drives me, because you don't get time back. That's, it's gone. Today's gone. When you're listening to this, you can't get your morning back. You can't get yesterday back. You brush it off. You move forward. You say today's a new day, and you keep going. You don't stop. I love it. But, well, Justin, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I think the audience is gonna love this episode.
Thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate it, man.